जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Continuing to read teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord, this is the last chapter of this book. So Lord Chaitanya then inquired from Sri Ramananda Roy, out of so many so-called liberated souls, who is actually liberated? Ramananda replied that the person who is completely saturated with devotional love of Radha and Krishna is to be considered the best of all liberated persons. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, it is stated that the association of a pure devotee is more desirable than life itself. And in separation from the association of the devotee, not even a second is passed happily. Similarly, it is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 14th chapter, a devotee of Narayana is so rare that if you can find only one, out of millions and millions. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Sri Ramananda Roy, there are many songs. Which song do you think the best of all? Ramananda replied that any song which describes the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna is the best song. The conditioned soul is such that everyone is captivated by sex life. All the material fiction, dramas, and novels are descriptions of love between a man and woman. As people have so much attraction for this literature, Krishna therefore appeared on this material world and displayed his transcendental loving affairs with the gopis, and there is an immense literature dealing with transaction between the gopis and Krishna. Anyone who takes shelter of this story of Radha and Krishna enjoys actual happiness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 33rd chapter, it is stated that the Lord, in order to show his actual life, displayed his pastimes at Vrindavan, and any intelligent person who tries to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna is the most fortunate. And that sort of song and story is the highest in the world. Lord Chaitanya then inquired from Sri Ramananda Roy, what is the most profitable thing in this world? The essence of all auspicious events. Ramananda Roy replied that there is nothing so profitable as the association of pure devotees. Lord Chaitanya inquired, what do you recommend a person think of? Ramananda Roy replied that one should always think of the pastimes of Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. Krishna has multiple activities and they are described in so many Vedic scriptures. One should think of all the pastimes always. That is the best meditation and the highest ecstasy. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, it is confirmed by Sukadeva Goswami that people should always think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not only think of him, one should hear and chant the name, fame, and glories of the Supreme Lord. Lord Chaitanya inquired of Ramananda Roy, what is the best type of meditation? And Ramananda replied, one who always meditates upon the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna is the best meditator. Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this in the 1st canto, 2nd chapter, wherein it is stated, it is only the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the master of all devotees, whose name we should always be chanting and who should be always thought of in meditation and worship regularly. Lord Chaitanya inquired from Ramananda Roy, where should a person live, giving up all other pleasures? And Ramananda Roy replied that one should give up all the pleasures and should live in Vrindavan, the place where Lord Krishna had so many pastimes. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, 47th chapter, it is said by Uddhava that it is best to live at Vrindavan, even as one of the plants or creepers in the land of the land, where the Supreme Lord was and where the gopis went, worshipping the Supreme Lord, the ultimate goal of all Vedic knowledge. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now asked, what is the best subject to hear of? And Ramananda Roy replied, the best subject matter to hear of is the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Actually, when the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are heard from the right source, one becomes at once a liberated soul. But sometimes it happens that people do not hear the pastimes of Radha and Krishna from a person who is a realized soul, and they are therefore sometimes misguided. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 38th chapter, that one who hears about the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis will attain to the highest platform of devotional service, and he will be freed from the material lust which is overwhelming one's heart. In other words, the actual hearing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna is to get rid of all material lust. If one does not become freed from material lust, then he should not indulge in hearing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Unless we hear from the right source, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna will be misinterpreted, and we shall think that it is an ordinary affair between a man and woman, and we shall be misguided. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next inquired from Ramananda Roy, who is the most worshipable deity? And Ramananda Roy immediately replied that the transcendental couple, Sri Radha and Krishna, is the ultimate object of worship. There are different kinds of worshipable objects, such just as the impersonalists worship the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. But the result of such worship is that one becomes bereft of his living activities and becomes just like the tree and other unmoving entities. Those who are worshippers of the void also attain such a result. And those who are bhukti, who are material enjoyment, worship demigods and achieve the planet of the demigods. And in that body, they enjoy material happiness. Lord Chaitanya inquired about those who are after material happiness and liberation from this material bondage. Where do they ultimately go? Ramananda Roy replied that ultimately some of them become as good as a standing tree, and some of them achieve the heavenly planets to enjoy material happiness. Ramananda Roy went on to say that those who have no taste for Krishna consciousness or spiritual life are just like crows who take pleasure in eating the bitter nimba fruit, while the poetic cuckoo eats the seed of the mango. Similarly, the unfortunate transcendentalists are simply speculating on dry philosophy, whereas the transcendentalists who are in love with Radha Krishna enjoy just like the cuckoo. Therefore, those who are devotees of Radha and Krishna are the most fortunate persons in the world. Ramananda Roy compared mental speculation with the bitter nimba fruit, which is not at all edible, simply full of dry speculation. So fit for the crow, like philosophers. However, mango seeds are very relishable, and those who are in the devotion service of Krishna and Radha are like those who are mango tasting cuckoos. I'll stop here. This is a very beautiful section now. It is really now coming to the end, right? All this conversation has happened from between Ramananda Roy and Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu asking several questions to Ramananda Roy, and ultimately, at the end, he took to the point that it is the prema bhakti. It is a relationship, that transcendental relationship with Radha and Krishna, and especially he described about the 5 relationships, types of relationships one can have with Krishna. And now coming towards the end, he's just like, okay, what is it ultimately? Right now, it's like a summary for us, that the main points that we can establish, like apply it in our own lives. So that's the whole essence over here. And we can see that it is completely Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada is beautifully explaining everything. So really, if you think about it, it's like one's life, we are completely like anointed. Our life is completely painted with the love of Radha and Krishna. That is what happens. And how does it happen, right? This cannot happen in silo. We cannot think that, okay, alone, let me just practice it. I can just be sitting at home and I can just practice it. It doesn't happen like that. We are always given the guidance that we take association of devotees, and in that, our love for Radha and Krishna, it really flourishes. And isn't that so practical also, right? We know that whenever we are in association of devotees, especially senior devotees, those who carry that love of Radha and Krishna, when we are in the association of them, we can immediately feel how our spirituality, our bhakti also just kind of boosts so quickly with them. So that's what it is. And then there's several questions about who is a liberated person? Somebody who is completely in the love of Radha and Krishna. What is the story that somebody should be listening? The stories of Radha and Krishna. Where should one live? Live in Vrindavan. But here's the point, it's not like we can all pack our bags and go to Vrindavan right now, the physical Vrindavan, right? But rather, we carry Vrindavan in our hearts. As long as constantly we are meditating on Radha and Krishna, our body, our mind, our heart become Vrindavan. So that's, or even your house, right? As long as we have the deities and all of that, even if it's a picture of Radha and Krishna, Radha Madhavari, your house now is Vrindavan. So that's something important we need to know. And then continuing with what are the songs, again, it is about Radha and Krishna. And what is the ultimate goal? It is really serving Radha and Krishna. So one thing with with our Krishna consciousness, I mean, the philosophy that has been given to us by Mahaprabhu, right? Prema Bhakti, that is the important thing. So here, what is the difference between all other paths that people follow, right? Like Brahman liberation, that's the other one, that where you do. So in there, right, the sadhya and sadhya, like the sadhana and the sadhya are different in the sense, the process that we follow to do something and the end goal are different. Example, liberation, right? Like what happens is they strictly follow the rules and regulations and everything. And what is a liberation? That you achieve Brahman. It's like completely like Prabhupada is explaining here. There is no personal service there. You just achieve the Brahman realization. So they are different. And even with the jnana, when you're following all of that, also or even yoga, you're doing yoga and all of that, jnana, whatever, but you are not ultimately attaining the service of the Lord. So whenever the process and the end goal is different. However, in the bhakti process, for us, the process and the goal are the same in the sense we do bhakti and our goal is also bhakti, because it's not like we do bhakti and then ultimately we are going to go disappear somewhere, or that it's not the goal. Our goal is that we keep on increasing bhakti, and ultimately there will be a day where we will be eligible to enter Radha and Krishna's abode. And then what are we going to do? We are going to do bhakti again, directly serving them. So that's the highest point of bhakti. So that's something very important that I learned from my Guru Maharaj, and always thought, it is so nice to see that. So whatever we are doing, only thing is that we are not in the fine stage right now. We are in the imperfection stage, right? But we are practicing in order for us to get to that perfectional stage of bhakti. But again, as I said, our life is just completely filled with the love of Radha and Krishna, and in the guidance of senior devotees, we continue in this path. Okay, so we can continue.